Now we go to our third panel, and this is about wider impacts. Here is Mr. Gunnar Malm, welcome. Mr. Pasi Rajala from Rumble, and Anni Sinnemäki from City of Helsinki, welcome.
Thank you.
First of all, like I'm asking all others, so what do you think about this crazy story? Honestly, not no political correctness here.
Well, I think it's great that we are in this point today, that we actually do have a study and that we do have an understanding that technically it would be possible to build a tunnel to connect the twin cities Helsinki and Tallinn, and to connect Baltic states and Finland, and to connect Finland closer into the Central Europe, as well as to connect Baltic states closer to Central Europe. I think it's great that we have come to this point, because I think that it was not so many years ago when all this talk was completely in the clouds, and no one could say anything about whether this would be of any kind of realism or not. So I think that we have come a long way.
Thank you. Gunnar, what do you think?
I think it's really an impressive vision. I think it's also nice that we have these kind of visions up here in the Nordic countries and in the Baltic states. Because if you have the European perspective, for example, if you are in the EU in Brussels and look on a map on Europe, I mean, if you are lucky, Helsinki are still on the map, Stockholm also, but the rest of the Nordic countries are not there. And I think that also shows that the vision that the rest of Europe have on the Nordic and the Baltic states. So I think if we could continue to connect each other in a better way, because the economies in the Nordic countries as well as together with the Baltic states, that's a real strong economy also from a European perspective.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. Pasi?
Well, if I remember back things, my first project in Estonia took place in 1995, and then back then we had discussions about this, and it was really science fiction to think that this might actually happen. And now I'm sitting here, feels nice.
It's improving, let's say. Yeah? Okay, Anni, everyone understands that when we have a tunnel, I can go to Helsinki Opera and then travel back home. And you can go to Tallinn Opera and restaurant and cinema and etc. You have been spending with a project a lot of time, so can you give us a wider perspective? What else it is? So what are the benefits of the citizens here in both cities, and the benefits of the visitors?
Well, 2 points perhaps. One is that neither in Helsinki or in Tallinn, I think 10 years back, 15 years back, already then Estonia was had been already for some time a prospering independent state, and the connections were quite tight. But no one really gave a prognosis or estimation that actually last year the number of passengers crossing the Gulf of Finland between these two cities, Helsinki and Tallinn, would be as much as 9 million. So I think that actually, although there was a lot of cooperation and a lot of mending of economies, still it has been a surprise how much actually the everyday life, the economies, the consumer economy or business-wise, these two economic regions of Tallinn and Helsinki actually do have common and how much they are linked into each other. And I do believe that we wouldn't be here studying the possibility of really building the tunnel unless actually in real life our citizens would not have been so active in going back and forth, in going to working in different cities, working in different countries, establishing a company or a daughter company in different country, or going to opera, or going to spa, or all the things that people have done. So I think that in a way the certain realism that now lies in the tunnel project, it's because of real people who have connected their lives. And then my second point is more perhaps dates back to the whole system of European transport networks that was formed after the Second World War. Because of course then Europe was divided by the Iron Bloc and all the connections, especially within the areas that were part of Soviet Union, but also the whole eastern, those countries that belonged to the socialist bloc, that all the connections were built from the perspective of that bloc. And I would say that actually still with this project, and of course concretely with Rail Baltica, we are building the Europe anew to meet the unification of the Europe after the collapse of the Iron Curtain. And I think we're still in that process in order to make really the concrete connections to meet the political community that the European Union at the moment is.
Thank you. But it's a good point that this is reality, that almost 10 million people commuting with the ferries. This is yes. And let's not forget that Finnair is Estonia's second best national carrier. So there is another almost 300,000 passengers who are traveling with Finnair. What do you think, Pasi? What will happen with the ferry traffic then? Then this tunnel is a success.
Well, actually the ferry traffic, well, I would say that the tunnel and the ferries are not competing with each other, because according to our estimates, it seems that the new traffic, well, the traffic in the tunnel will be new traffic mostly. So new business trips, new commuting, most of the leisure travel that is going on in the ferries at the moment will stay there. And actually, it seems that, according to our calculations, it seems that the volume of ferry traffic will be increasing, although the tunnel will be built.
So it's a good point. Nothing will happen to the ferries. That culture going to the sea, having good time, will remain.
Yeah.
And still it will be in the triangle of Stockholm, Tallinn, Helsinki. Very good. But Gunnar, can you give us a little insight? What happened with Copenhagen-Malmö area? Then they opened a bridge. And what can we expect, or if you put it in the perspective of Tallinn-Helsinki, what it is? So I know that the ports will be merged into one unit and other things happen too. But what else can you point here?
Yeah. I mean, that was the political ambitions when the bridge, tunnel and the island was built. That was, of course, to connect the southern part of Sweden, Copenhagen, with the rest of with Germany and the rest of Europe. That was a political goal. And also, of course, to stimulate communication between the two countries and also create a bigger city, Malmö, Copenhagen. We should also remember at that time, Malmö was at the end to finalize their heavy industry area. Today, Malmö is a completely different city than just 20 years ago. But we are always talking about Malmö-Copenhagen as the cluster. But that's not true. We are talking about the southern part of Sweden, Skåne, Blekinge, all the way up to Kalmar, and also up to Gothenburg, because we have a railway line from Gothenburg connecting to the Copenhagen airport and the city, and all the way up to Helsingør, with a lot of people going, and also a railway connection from the eastern part of southern Sweden. So that it's include the whole southern part of Sweden. Let me give you a figure. The first year after the bridge was opened, that was 2009, with 12 months, then we had around about 2.9 million vehicles crossing the bridge. Today, we have 7.5 million vehicles crossing the bridge. And also a very, very extensive development of the rail traffic as well. So I mean, it has, I think it's huge success, really. And people today, I mean, they work in either country or live on another place and commute on a daily basis. Yeah. So I mean, the communication is really good, and also the southern part of Sweden has also a close connection to intercontinental air traffic in the Copenhagen airport. So that has changed really, I would say. And also, for example, you know that we have a huge investment in Lund, the ESS installation, which is very close to the installation that is in Switzerland, the CERN. We should never have had that investment if we didn't have the bridge. Because that helps, I mean, for scientists who are coming in, flying into Copenhagen, very, very close trip and so on. So yes, I believe very much in extension of areas with connection. And of course, this is one of the tricky things also to capture in different calculations.
Good. Gunnar, we still have some 10, 15 years to go. Can you just list some things what we can do now correctly or even better than in that case?
Yeah. Then I should predict what will happen after this day's meeting. Because tomorrow and even this evening, the newspapers and the debate will start about the pros and cons. And one of the hottest issues to discuss will be the cost estimates. And that will be the truth figure for the whole project, because this is the first figure. And which means that the whole focus will be on these first estimation of costs, instead of what we could achieve in a broader sense. So I think the most important thing now, that is to understand that all stakeholders in this project has a common view of what this project should achieve. Because we have learned, we have worked a lot with that in Sweden, for example. How could we avoid cost overruns, time delays and late technical changes? Yes, by open up in an early stage and to have a full understanding of that all stakeholders in details. Because if we see a presentation like this, it's easy to have a full understanding. But we get into the details. The evil is always in the details. And if we don't spend enough time now to understand and accept that we have the details. And that also means that we have to have an open, inclusive system. You have to be very, very transparent, which also means, from my opinion, that this project can't stop now. We have to have a project working with these things as well, also for the future, to take care of all these open questions, so we don't get into a situation where false rumors will be the truth. because that will follow us due the whole project time, also for the future. Because I think project today has to be based much more on a, I would say, broad, fair, transparent and sustainable foundation because of the rapid technical changes. We also have rapid environmental values changed. We have political values that will change also over time with a project like this. So I think these are the things that has to be taken care of already now, and that's the reason why I also think it's so important to keep an organization working with these issues already from the very beginning.
Very understandable. So we have to get the focus from the number itself to the wider edge.
Yeah.
But we are in Estonia. We don't have to wait for tomorrow. It's already online. Who is sitting online? Are we talking number already? Only number? Who is online? We are? Okay. I have no chance to go and check, but it's already number. Yeah. Pasi, how this thing will influence foreign trade of both countries? Trade between us, trade with Far East, Russia, all other things. What we can add to that number issue?
Well, of course, the main impact comes from the fact that the fixed link, the tunnel, would actually bring Finland as part of the Europe, not being an island anymore. And this, of course, has a lot of impacts both in Finland and Estonia, because due to the tunnel and by the tunnel, this twin city that Helsinki and Tallinn will then conclude will be a transportation hub that connects Stockholm, St. Petersburg, the Arctic areas, and the Helsinki city, Tallinn city, to the Central Europe and throughout the connections also to Asia. So it's a big change, and of course the main point in this matter is that this will improve the competitiveness of this region, of this twin region, and it's a big thing in the future. We are in a great competition globally, so this might help us in this competition.
What do you think about competition for investments? Estonia, Finland, Latvia, we always compete for the same investments. Now when it's like more one region, what do you say? Will Estonia benefit more, or Finland, or both? Both is a correct answer, but what do you think?
Both is the right answer, of course.
Thank you. Any questions, please? Don't hesitate. Meanwhile, you prepare. Oh, yeah, please. Hello. Can we have a mic, please?
Yeah, the microphone.
Thank you. Heikki Kalle is my name. I've been part of this project as an environmental, but surprise, surprise, the question is not about environment, but about wider impacts. And you just very nicely described that those 1 + 1 = 2 things with the project, that instead of one opera theatre, we're in Estonia, we're going to have 2 opera theatres and 2 airports, and those things are going to add up. But I'm more interested in your opinion about those, when you're upscaling our city. It's going to be highly technical, 3 million city. So that what new things are coming? So that because the scale is going to be bigger, we are going to be closer to Stockholm or to Copenhagen than we used to be. So that what this scale brings, so that are we going to have a good kick to Silicon Valley, or what we are going to do? are we closer to Formula One or so that what kind of new opportunities appearing because of the larger scale and better competitiveness of this Twin City region? What do you see? Thank you.
Anni.
Thank you for the question. I think that the main benefit would be the benefit regarding having a better pool of human skills and human resources. And I think that having faster connections would mean that there would be more people, more educated people that would be able to work in different kind of companies, to create investment, to create innovation, to create new ideas. And I would say that rather than even an institution interesting like Formula One, more it would be that in today's economy, one of the things that many even really quite attractive regions can lack is enough of skilled workforce plus a livable, nice environment where these people actually can live. And I think it would make Helsinki region and Tallinn and the wider Baltic region more interesting to different kind of investment, because you would have a better pool of people.
Yeah, exactly. Even today, big cultural events, rock concerts are sold, having in mind that Finns will come too. So it's like, it's already functioning that way. Thank you. Any other questions? So when we continue, so I had, during the break, I had a nice conversation to guys who are telling that if we are digging the tunnel, we have to change the transportation system of Tallinn. We have to also change this Ülemiste junction, which is the biggest in the city. How do you see about Helsinki? How much will this tunnels change your city?
I think that, of course, the thing is that here it has been thought that important growing, already existing, but growing in importance hubs like the center of the city, the Pasila station and its environment, and then the airport and its surroundings, that this project, of course, would strengthen these already existing hubs. And perhaps I would take up at least Pasila, because Pasila is changing and growing so fast that I think at the moment even people in Helsinki might not see it yet, that what an important transport hub it will become, and not only a logistics hub, but actually a place where tens of thousands more people live, and where you also have a significant number of more workplaces than you have at the moment, although it's significant already. And also the airport that has been growing lately, both as a workplace destination, but also there it's growing really, there are parts that are growing as livable city. And of course this tunnel and its how it's connected in Helsinki capital region would strengthen these places that are already developing quite fast. And then perhaps an additional point that is interesting from the Helsinki city's perspective is the question of cargo. I think that this study has it right when it says that actually the ferry traffic and people having their leisure trips would probably be quite similar than it is now. And Pasi said it also here, but I think what would be interesting would be the cargo transformation, because it's not so beneficial in our system that the cargo exists in the very central ports of the city of Helsinki. So that project could be of help there.
I understand. Thank you. Yes, a question, please.
Hey, I'm Kalev Kallemets again. I don't know, in 3 days we have the beginning of the Winter Olympics. Helsinki has organized it in 1952. I don't know what the regulation is about organizing by 2 cities, but I don't know also whether Helsinki has considered it again and what the related questions are. But maybe it's worth to look at whether the regulations allow for Twin City to organize it. Thank you.
What do you think? Olympic Games are not so not visible anymore, or how to put it correctly? Dream big.
Well, I think that must be taken into heart. Had not thought of that before.
Yeah. When we spend in Russian way, of course it's not visible. But when we do it like in ordinary way in 2 cities, but we need to know, of course.
Maybe I could add that of course the tunnel doesn't bring us everything, but we have to take into account that when we are a bigger city, when we are a more developed twin city, and we have the scale with us, so it's much more important to get big events here, even Olympic Games.
Exactly. Yes, please.
I would just like to comment on the Olympic Games. I'm a Canadian Latvian, and fact is that Sweden wants to bid for, is evaluating whether to bid for one of the next Olympic Games. And since in the city of Sigulda we have a world-class bobsledding track, there's discussion of Sigulda, in that case, being included in such a bid. So it's entirely possible to do between Helsinki and Tallinn.
That's true.
I have another question. I know from, let's say, urban development, metro systems, it is a known fact that if a new metro line is planned, that the land around the future station becomes attractive to settle new companies and things like that. And I would like to take up one of my speakers. Is there anything planned or envisaged that such a tunnel also could, let's say, increase the land use and make it attractive for companies to settle there because they have a better link and things like that? Has this been a part of the studies, and what is your judgment on this?
What do you know about that? We have no metro in Tallinn at all.
I could give you a comment and an example from Sweden and Stockholm. I mean, there is now an inquiry going on about building a new high-speed network of 1,250 kilometers between Stockholm, Gothenburg and Copenhagen. And one part of financing that is that the different communities along the line will be obliged to build new houses and flats. And that is calculated to be around about 100,000 new houses and flats along the line. And of course the value of the land close to that is very, very high. And the major part of this, I think, is around 30 to 40,000 new houses will be built along within the Stockholm area, which also includes a new network on the southern part as well. So of course that will create a lot of new possibilities, really.
Okay, now I'm thinking about the story why Helsinki has the station in the center and in the airport, and Tallinn has only in the airport. So Tallinn is trying to make that piece of land more valuable, or what? Anni?
Perhaps it's better that I do not comment from Tallinn's perspective, but more in a general way. I would say that the experience from the Helsinki capital region and from the city of Helsinki itself, we have many examples of current investments that that are either in the process of being built, or like the Western Metro that has been mentioned, and where you have even great mistakes that you can learn from concerning big projects. But with the metro line, for example, it's already completely easy to analyze how the value of land or value of property has gone up during the building of the metro, and even actually before opening the metro. And perhaps I just refer to what I said earlier, that I think in Helsinki's case, those places, those hubs that this tunnel would be connected to are such that they are already interesting and developing, but no doubt that this project would add up to their value and to also private investors' value to be interested in them. And then it's another question of the total financial cost and benefits and long-term and wider calculations. It's not, of course, a simple thing, and there even calculating the land value is not enough. You probably need both the narrow kind of calculation and then the wider kind of calculation, and a discussion that sort of gives a realistic perspective to both of them.
Yeah, thank you. But what do you think then? Should Tallinn plan a station for a city center too, or it's not so important?
Perhaps I would say that regarding, if we think of the tunnel and the prerequisite of this project is a functioning, or at least that there would be a tangible understanding that when the whole Rail Baltica connection would be ready. And I would think that from Tallinn's perspective, thinking of these two projects and their the places and logistic hubs that they create together would be a good combination. But with this kind of connection, at least I wouldn't say it would be necessary to be in the very city center. I would think that it could be beneficial, although from some other perspective.
Thank you. Gentlemen, anything to add here?
No.
Well, maybe I could say that the difference between Tallinn and Helsinki is, of course, that in Helsinki there is already the main railway station in the center, and the alignment will go under it. So that's a big difference.
Okay, thank you very much. So my short summary, and you just tell what I am forgetting. The big point is that the tunnel is reflecting the reality, what it is already. So two cities are very active in communication. And nothing will happen with ferries and the existing culture. So this is all just benefiting each other. Then the discussion will be a lot about the big number, about the huge number. And if we want to succeed with a project, we have to reorientate that discussion from number to a larger scale of different benefits, what the project gives. And one good example is to show actually that even Olympic Games are not so unrealistic anymore when we just put our backs together, as Estonians say. And well, it comes second time already that the land around the station starts to be more valuable. The artificial island will be a very, very valuable place and things like this. So maybe there are some hidden sources of financing of that project. Anything to add? Please.
But just shortly, 2 comments. Second one is regarding additional finances. I would say that since this project, regardless of what the lower estimation or the higher estimation would be true, it's very expensive. And I would rather see that in addition to perhaps some like public taxpayers' money, there should be some private investors who would believe in the beneficiality of such a project. It would make the ground certainly safer. And the second thing that was not so much discussed, but in our round, but which has to be taken seriously, is the environmental impact and the further detailed analysis of it, because there's certainly still a lot that we are not aware yet regarding both the climate impact or the impact for the sea. And as it was mentioned by Mr. Malm, it's certainly something that people want to be aware of or know before they decide their attitude towards realizing this kind of project.
Thank you. Pasi wanted to add.
I wanted to say that, as Gunnar told us, it will happen that we will first talk only about this one number, and it would be very important to, in these discussions already, but also in the future, to point out all the benefits and all other impacts of this project. There are many numbers that we already have, but there are also impacts that cannot be told by numbers or euros, and they are important also.
Thank you very much.